Hello, my name is Dr. Adam J. Bach. I'm the instructor for MHR 322, Introduction to Entrepreneurial Management. As you know, today's lecture has been canceled due to the weather, and I'm sorry that that's the case, as it obviously affects our start to the course. But I'm recording a couple of videos walking through the presentation that I would have given today in class. And I hope that this will get you started in the course despite missing the first lecture. I'm obviously recording these unexpectedly, so these will not be the most professional recordings. I hope you'll bear with me. I've split it up into 4 videos, so each one is relatively short because I think that a 40-minute or 45-minute or longer video with slides would be just too boring. So please bear with me. We'll get through this together, and next week we'll be back on track, and I think we'll still have a great semester together. So MHR 322 is an introductory class. I'm here to help you see if entrepreneurship is a good option for you. Completing the class will increase your probability of success if you decide to be an entrepreneur. Even more importantly, though, it's going to give you an opportunity to develop an entrepreneurial mindset. I want to help you think like an entrepreneur, as well as to use as a complement to being able to think like a manager. Most of you are taking courses where you're being trained to approach problem solving in a very specific way, and it's a very useful way. Entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is about thinking a little bit differently, so that even if you end up going to work for a corporation, you'd be able to bring that mindset to bear, or if you work for a nonprofit or government or whatever you happen to be. And I think that that will make you a more valuable and successful employee, no matter where you end up. So you might be asking, why am I teaching this class? I think there's a lot that I bring to this class that will be valuable. In addition to my academic career, where I study and publish on entrepreneurship and technology venturing, I've also been an entrepreneur. I've started 5 biotech startups, and I'm actually working now on a 6th company as well. Many of those have been spun out of universities. And in addition to having raised a fair amount of venture capital for my companies, some of those companies have in fact had exits. Norides was acquired for $20 million in 2011. Stratatech was acquired for $187 million in 2016. I've also done strategy consulting. I've consulted to tech transfer offices. I've sat on boards of directors. And so in addition to being able to talk to you about sort of the theory of entrepreneurship and the concepts that we want you to learn, I also bring a lot of practical experience of what actually happens inside companies trying to commercialize new ideas. And I hope that, although it's a big lecture class, I hope that some of you will choose to ask questions about my experience and what can be learned from that experience. Because sometimes what happens actually in the companies on the ground is a little different than the way we try to talk about it in the classroom. My LinkedIn profile is there. I encourage you, you're welcome to take a look at that so you can see a little more about what I've done and hopefully what I can bring to the classroom. This is a link to my most recent biotechnology startup, which is a spinout of UW-Madison, commercializing an acellular biomaterial for cardiovascular therapeutic applications. Yes, I know that's a mouthful. My happy photo and a little bit about me is still up on the website, although I've now stepped back from my role as we've hired a new CEO into the company. But this has been very recent. This company was formed in 2016, and I'd been very actively involved in helping move it forward. And I'm now going to be working on another startup that I've just gotten involved in literally this month. I'm hopeful later in the semester I'll be able to share some information about that as well. So what is entrepreneurship? So there's a lot of definitions about it. There's a classic definition by the economist Schumpeter that entrepreneurship is creative destruction. That is, it's this generation of new ideas that cause old ideas to become obsolete. A really good definition was developed by some academic professors at Harvard, talking about entrepreneurship as the pursuit of opportunity beyond the resources you currently control. In other words, coming up with ideas that aren't directly related to what you have available. And this is really where things differ from what happens in corporations and general management. Because in a management context, you're usually presented with a set of resources. You have these people, you have this amount of money, And here's your plan and here's your goal. And entrepreneurship is very different. It says we want to accomplish something and we may not have everything we need right now in order to make that work. And entrepreneurs still find ways to drive commercialization forward. There's a lot of other definitions that you'll see out there. People talk about entrepreneurs as risk takers, innovators, visionaries, and sometimes these may be true, but as you'll see as we go through the course, there's no single definition for or set of characteristics that can be applied to every single entrepreneur in every single situation. And even people who are not entrepreneurs may be entrepreneurial. They may behave entrepreneurial in situations where we would still say they weren't technically being an entrepreneur. Why is it important? Well, realistically, it's important to society. Entrepreneurship creates jobs. It promotes a dynamic economy in which innovation and new commercial activity bring new products and services to markets. And ultimately, entrepreneurship is what takes really new, innovative discoveries and innovations and makes them available to consumers. So you can imagine something just like light-emitting diodes, which for a long time were just a research project, and now they're available cheaply as light bulbs. That process comes about through entrepreneurial action. And there's many benefits to you as a student in taking the course and learning about entrepreneurship. The career paths associated with entrepreneurship are much more dynamic than what you would see as a corporate manager. Many firms are working hard to become more innovative. Competitive advantage in an accelerating pace of business is depending more and more on innovation. And although I'm careful about this, success as an entrepreneur can lead to wealth creation. We do need to be very careful about that because we do see stories of outliers, people like Mark Zuckerberg, who make significant amount of money as entrepreneurs. But we do need to remember that those are outliers. They're unusual situations. And most entrepreneurs do not earn that kind of outlier income. But you can see many of the wealthiest people did come from originally entrepreneurial backgrounds or entrepreneurial families. And in particular, there are people in Wisconsin who've made significant amounts of money from their entrepreneurial work, headlined, for example, by John Menard, the founder of Menards. But including many, many other people, especially the S.C. Johnson family, which is still a family-owned corporation you may be aware of, based in Racine, and of course then Judy Faulkner here in Madison. The bottom line about entrepreneurship, and I'll end this first part with this, is that entrepreneurship should be about solving a problem, not financial rewards. If you're entirely focused on making as much money as possible, then while entrepreneurship could be a viable route, there are probably other directions you might want to consider with higher probabilities of success. And so I think this quote by Judy Faulkner is really appropriate. The work of my life has been to develop software that would help keep people well and help sick people get better. I never had any personal desire to be a wealthy billionaire. And the wonderful thing about Judy, of course, is that she's put her money where her mouth is, and she's made it clear she's committed to giving more than 95% away, 95% of her net worth away to charitable causes. And I really admire this approach to entrepreneurship, this idea that you're accomplishing something important and ultimately the financial rewards, although you should benefit from them to some extent, beyond a certain level, those financial rewards should perhaps be given back to the people and organizations who've supported you in the process. So this is the end of the first part. I encourage you to take a break and then maybe come back and watch and listen to the other parts as we get this course launched.